We are sitting down right now with Warren Buffett, the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, who for the first time in 60 years has been watching all of this from the audience instead of being on stage. And, you know, last year at this time, Warren, you surprised everyone with the announcement that you were stepping down as CEO. Fast forward a year, and here we are. What do you think?
Well, I think it's all working. It's all working. It isn't our ideal surrounding area or environment, I should say, in terms of deploying cash for Berkshire. Okay. But in terms of how we got the right management, we got the right arrangement, and you know, we can pick our spots, and nobody can tell us what to do exactly, and so sometimes we're doing nothing, but other times we get quite active. I mean,
you know, Ajit spent some time on the stage today talking about how one of his keys is to do nothing when it comes to insurance, when it comes to writing insurance, which is the same thing that you have always talked about with whether to invest or not.
Yeah. The world is full of people that are offering you things to do, and then the question is to find one that you know makes sense. And there may be 20 out there that make sense that you don't understand, and you just leave them alone.
You said that the world or the surrounding environment is not ideal, and I guess that points to the idea that there's almost $400 billion in cash on hand, although Greg took some pains to show it's really more like $380 billion in cash on hand. Yeah. But there's a lot of cash on hand, and you're still active in managing the portfolio, too, and looking at stocks. You're looking around, and you don't see a lot that you want to invest in.
No. Well, then we don't do anything. I mean, we've been in of the 60 years I've been in the business, you know, there's probably 5 of them have been really juicy, you know. And I think it was Tom Watson Sr. of IBM that said, they asked him the reason why IBM had been so successful or something like that. And he said, I'm smart at spots, and I stay around those spots. And that's the whole thing. And IBM was in 3 different businesses, including time clocks and a couple of, and 2 of the 3 turned out to be no good. But so they just focused on the one.
What is it when you look around that it's just prices are too high at this point? I would imagine there are. Greg said this from the stage too. Yeah. There are businesses that you like, just not these prices.
And I would say I understand fewer of the businesses as a percentage of the whole than I did 10 years ago. I have not learned new industries for some years, you know, and so I don't kid myself on that. I'm not going to learn them. I'm not going to have an edge on, you know, a whole bunch of younger people that have actually grown up with them, used the product, seen things, but well, as I mentioned, you know, you don't have to understand too many if they're like Apple.
But looking around, let's just get some macro thoughts on this, because I don't know that this is something that Greg is going to comment on per se. Just looking at the macro stock market environment, what does this feel like to you? Does it feel expensive? Does it feel like there are opportunities in some places?
Well, it feels like, you know, I've compared it, the markets to a church with a casino attached, and people can move between the church and casino, and I would say there are more people in the church and more people in the casino, but the casino's gotten very attractive to people. You know, if you're buying one-day options or selling them, I mean, that is that's not investing, it's not speculating, it's gambling. You know, just totally. There's nobody that can explain why they're buying an option for one day, unless they maybe the fellow that you know, made the $400 and some thousand from knowing when we were going into Venezuela can do it. But I mean, that's really, and the quantity of those things is just incredible. So we've never had people in a more gambling mood than now, but that doesn't mean that investing is terrible. It does mean that that prices for an awful lot of things will look very silly. I mean, they had a squeeze, and Avis of all things. Well, Avis has been around for 50 years, but just this past week, we have lots more regulation and everything now, but people spend their time figuring out how to get around the rules rather than follow the rules. That's just a challenge.
The type of investor you are, though, is you laid it out yourself. In the 60 years you've been doing this in the business, you've had maybe 5 juicy years. I guess that means you're always looking for the next juicy year. What do you think it would take to make a juicy year or a juicy opportunity for you?
It's a phone call, and in some cases, but we bought a business last year. It wasn't big enough to be meaningful, but we got a letter.
Bell Labs?
Yeah, Bell Labs. And sometimes there's more zeros attached to them than others, and we're big enough to handle anything, and we can make decisions faster than anybody, and our word is good. There's an awful lot of people that they're in the business of reselling something, or and it's a lot better if you're a good salesperson. There's no reason to be selling vacuum cleaners, or as well sell stock. You'll make way more money. It's where the money is, and there's more money around than ever.
But the best opportunities have probably come when the macro environment leads to panic.
That's the most likely.
Right.
Well, the most likely time to buy things is when nobody else will answer their phones. Everybody else talks about their wonderful trading departments and everything. Just try them out. Sometime when markets are collapsing, they don't answer the phones.
Right.
And if they do, the bids are subject, and the offers are subject, and the spread is wide, and they'll use the information they get from you about what you want to do to go out and kill you some other way. I mean, it's really like going through a slaughterhouse. I mean, you don't feel like eating hot dogs for a while.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do you see the circumstances building up anywhere that could lead to a time like that again? Is any sort of panic in the market?
Sure.
Where do you see them?
Well, if you saw them, they wouldn't happen.
Okay.
I mean, you've got all kind of, you don't worry about what people are talking about can happen. It's something that comes out of the blue, but something will come out of the blue.
Yeah.
I mean, a nuclear bomb can come out of the blue.
Well, let's knock on wood on that.
It doesn't do any good to knock on wood. That's the point.
Yeah.
It was the Archduke getting shot, in 1914 or something like that for World War I. And it's just take everything in life, and if it's something people are talking about and thinking about, it's not going to happen. Yeah. But there are things that can happen out of the blue. And actually, that's particularly true, to use that phraseology now, because the things that can come out of the sky, we don't know what can happen tomorrow. I don't like to talk that way to people, whether it's you or anybody else. I mean, because whether it does you a lot of good to worry about that, I don't think it does do any good to worry about it. I think it's good to be cognizant of it, but the worrying about it is terrible. I don't like to even cause that belief with people. I don't like to go around.
Yeah.
Tell them the end is coming, or something like that.
A friend told me yesterday he's recently started using the phrase, I don't fret, I don't worry, and that's probably a good way to go about life. But let's talk about some of the issues that are out there right now. Inflation is up. That's an issue. So how does Berkshire handle that with its businesses?
Well, we can't handle runaway inflation except not to be there in the way of it. And if you look at the number of countries that have had runaway inflation since World War II, in my lifetime. It's very large, once you create that, it becomes a different world. In Germany, obviously experienced it after World War I, but there are dozens and dozens of countries that have experienced it, and of course you have countries that have gone bankrupt like 6 or 7 times. I mean, it's just amazing what people do in financial markets.
What about the inflation that we're dealing with right now, which is, not excessive? It's north of 3% at this point, but we're not even back at the levels we were during COVID. We're looking at 8 to 9%. So what about just higher energy prices, how that works through the line, and how you handle it?
Well, it came close before Volcker. I mean, it was cash is trash, and people were losing faith in the currency, and they felt they could borrow at 12% to earn 6% on farming or something like that, and they had huge farmers in this state, Nebraska, collapse because they bought beyond the earning power. They paid interest rates beyond the earning power just because they felt that the dollar was going to disappear and the land wouldn't disappear, and it's tragic for many people, and if you're the best doctor in town or the best lawyer in town, you'll always make money under any choice. The best TV personality. I mean, but what not having faith in the money does to a country, it turns it into something else.
Yeah.
And I've always hoped that U.S. never does it, but we are not immune from it happening. We have a lot of control over whether rates may go up a half a point or down a half a point, but we may have less control over whether they go up 50 points.
You've long been a supporter of Jay Powell's.
Exactly.
He had his last FOMC meeting as chairman just this last week. He did say that he's going to be sticking around, staying on the Fed, staying in that position for this foreseeable future, in part because of the threats that he's faced.
I'll feel better when he's there than when he's not. I mean, I felt better when Volcker was there. But economists aren't the best at this sort of thing either. Read any old economics book from 1950 or 1970 that Paul Samuelson, who was a terrific guy and smart as hell, he had the standard textbook for 25 years, and if you looked up, zero interest rates, and year after year after year, it was a 900-page book, and there wasn't an entry for it. I mean, it was the most important economic development. I mean, in terms of the impact it would have and everything during the lifetime of the students reading it. But it's what you don't think of that does all the damage.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about CEOs in some of the Berkshire holdings. You mentioned Apple's Tim Cook and just the phenomenal job you think he's done.
Incredible.
He's not the only one of your major holding CEOs who stepped down. James Quincy recently stepped down from Coca-Cola, too. And we just spoke with Vicki Hollub, who announced that she is retiring and stepping down from that position at Occidental. Part of what Greg's talked about is how stable that portfolio is. And these holdings are companies that he knows and managers that he knows. There's going to be some new managers in some of those major holdings coming in. Is that a problem?
Well, it was certainly a problem with Coca-Cola there for a good many years when I was around the company. I mean, sure, it's and you have the most problems with a really good company because it'll continue. I mean, if you're selling some product that people are buying every day. You can make the wrong decision for a long time. But that's one of the problems with investing. Tim Cook, I felt was very, very good from the start. And most of our managers are very good at the smaller problems. They can't anticipate the overwhelming problems. That's my job, or now Greg's job.
Do you feel good about those holdings still? Have you met any of the new managers of those businesses?
I haven't met the old managers.
Of the new businesses, of the new CEOs that are coming in. Tim Cook's replacement, Enrique at Coca-Cola.
I certainly met the people at Bell Labs that we did. And obviously I met Vicky. We made the deal. And so I enjoy meeting the people. But you can make mistakes with people. I mean, look at the divorce rate. That's more important than whether you got the right CEO or anything else. Right. And now you've got years of trial. I mean, back when I was young, you had to make the decision. Or you didn't have to make a decision. A good many people made the decision when they were 20 or 21. Now,
to get married.
Yeah, they got married. Yeah. And now they spend 5 years and they still make the same mistakes.
So you think we're getting worse at our judgment?
Well, I don't know. Maybe the people behave differently before the marriage than after. Who knows exactly? Yeah. I would say that almost everybody feels either their marriage is better or worse than they anticipated a month after they were married. But I don't know which.
Warren, let's talk a little bit about deep fakes, because the deep fake Warren that popped up early in this session was pretty good. They had somebody standing up. Greg was joking about it, but the first question went to a guy from Warren up in the rafters who lives in Omaha. You've been concerned about some of these AI deepfakes and what that means for the world.
Yeah, I would be concerned if everybody was. Well, actually, the worst thing would be to have a really good imitator of any president that came along. I mean, just imagine. Well, yeah, we had that famous thing before, way back in New Jersey, where the Martians coming and everything like that.
Oh, War of the Worlds with Orson Welles.
What you can do, well, if you convince people to lend you money for it, you shouldn't be borrowing it. I mean, it's scary. And it's particularly scary when you have 9 countries or so with the nuclear weapons and people working on something even more. We haven't dealt with this. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Let's circle back to Berkshire and the Berkshire of today. I think I was speaking with you yesterday or the day before, and we were talking a little bit about Greg Abel. And what a nice guy he is. And
He's a terrific guy.
You said something interesting to me, though, about how you picked him, and it wasn't because he was a nice guy. Why did you pick him?
Well, he's very, very, very smart about businesses. Incidentally, he's getting his he's getting his American citizenship here very soon, and he was going over with me all the things he had to learn about it. And I've actually spent a little time in the past with groups of individuals. Of course, my wife did it too, became an American citizen. And the things they have to learn about the Constitution and all this, and they're usually so proud when they become American citizens. And I think I detected in Greg even. I mean, as successful he's been and everything else. I mean, he is. It means something to him to become an American citizen. And, he sits there with his young son, and the son knows more about some of the answers to the questions, that he may get asked or something about becoming a citizen. It's really interesting. Where else does that happen in the world? I mean, what people, that America's special. And it's a miracle what America's accomplished. I mean, it's just an absolute miracle. And yet, the miracle, the division of the output and everything is about as inequitable as you could come up with, while at the same time, it's got these great attractions. There is some secret sauce. I've never been able to define it precisely, but when you run a country for 200 and some years and people want to come here every year, I mean, there's really something about it. And what Greg Abel is very, is looking forward to becoming an American citizen. That means something to him. And you can't buy that anyplace. Or package it, or it won't work for a Madison Avenue approach. Be an American or something like that. But that feeling just goes. In my 95 years, I've seen it. It's time after time. So I felt good when Greg just volunteered that in the last day or two to me that he's up there for his final exams here pretty soon on becoming a citizen.
I didn't realize he wasn't a dual citizen already. I knew he was Canadian, but I thought he had dual citizenship. He
doesn't have a full, whatever the complete citizenship requirement is. And you can say, why does he care? I mean, he's gotten along fine without it here and everything. He still wants to be a citizen.
Yeah. 250 years, we're celebrating our 250th anniversary. You pointed out that you've been around for 95 of them. You think we have the special sauce that will continue in this country, or what do we need to do to preserve that and make sure that it does continue?
Well, we've got a special sauce. There's a secret sauce. It's such a good secret that I don't know what exactly it is. But I do know this, that anybody that has a choice would choose to be born in America. I mean, you can pick some very small little country. They're very happy that they're. But is there any other country that everybody's for a couple hundred years has wanted to emigrate to? I mean, and it attracted some terrible people, too. But it worked. And they had the mafias from the different groups. Not just the Italian mafia, but all. I mean, it wasn't that they were all. We had some system for picking out the wonderful people from some other countries, but it has worked. But it's worked. The extremes to which it works don't seem to belong to that kind of a society. I mean, if you were drawing up dreams for the ideal society, and you would have this kind of GDP per capita and everything, you wouldn't design the inheritance laws. You wouldn't. I mean, you'd just do all kinds of things differently, but somehow it's worked. But that doesn't mean that we can't do better. I mean, at all.
Warren, there are thousands of people, shareholders and partners of yours for decades in some cases, who are sitting out in this arena right now. And I just wonder if there's a message you'd like to give to them. Those who've been following you for years and who've been partners of yours for years.
The number one rule I give them is just not give them the golden rule. To others, I'm not a religious guy, but I mean, nobody said it any better in a couple thousand years than that, which may be why it's lasted to a certain degree too. I mean, more people are reading a 2,000-year-old book about how to behave than anything that anybody's coming up with lately. Now, it's got a lot of, particularly the Old Testament, it's got different kinds of stories to some extent, but if the whole world lived by the golden rule, it would be such a more wonderful society.
Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Yeah, and that's true for everything from parenthood to being a boss to being just everything in life. and it doesn't cost you anything. In fact, it's reflected in better behavior toward you. So, I mean, it's a very selfish sort of thing in one sense. But I've never seen anybody that's unhappy that behaves that way. And I've seen a lot of people in a lot of different kinds of situations.
Warren, I want to thank you for taking this time to sit down with us today. Warren Buffett, the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Greg Abel is going to be taking the stage in just a moment, and you will see more from him in just a moment.